Let's chat about this election being so close because it means something. And I got to talk. I gotta tell what I feel. Gotta talk about my life as I see it. Biggie. What is up, family? I am back today with one of my tea talks. I am T, the one doing the talking. Though I have been abundantly clear that neither Drumpf nor Jim Crow Joe was my guy and that I supported neither candidate, like many of you, I did breathe a sigh of relief of sorts on Saturday. What can I say? Celebrating that Drumpf lost is not necessarily the same thing as celebrating that Biden won. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are nowhere near approaching being warriors for Black liberation, but it is genuinely a relief to, one, see Drumpf lose, and two, to oust a president who openly aligns with white supremacist domestic terrorists, who proudly invokes verbiage of segregationist politicians of yore on his Twitter, and who literally referred to neo-Nazis as very fine people. Yeah, it will be nice not to have to deal with that shit on top of all the other shit that we've been dealing with since day none in these United States. The Biden-Harris campaign billed itself as the battle for the soul of America. You know, just generally hammering home the messaging that this is not who we are, except it is. This is exactly who America is. How y'all gonna talk about healing when you won't even acknowledge the disease? I referred previously to this election coming down to choosing your opponent, but for the already disenfranchised, it really came down to choosing our next oppressor, as is the case with pretty much any election. Ruling class gonna rule, and these were the so-called choices, a choice that came down to appearances, not action. In the end, people voted according to how they want to see themselves. And it turns out that barely more than half of y'all prefer the pinky up white supremacy. You know, if you're gonna be racist, at least know where the salad fork goes. Bottom line, if it weren't for Black and brown voters, Drumpf would have won again. And we mustn't be surprised by the closeness of this margin. We shouldn't be surprised that so many white people are still very much invested, not just in white supremacy, but in blatant, unabashed white supremacy. In the end, this was not a referendum on racism, state violence, police brutality, killer cops, anti-Blackness, imperialism, genocide, corruption, worker exploitation, corporatism, the mishandling of a deadly pandemic, assaulting women, assaulting children, or concentration camps, just to name a few. Based on the closeness of the results, none of those were that big a deal. This just came down to people deciding whether or not they felt Drumpf was too embarrassing. This is just over half of voters agreeing, oh, he's just so terribly uncouth. If we look at what should be baseline ethics and morality, it shouldn't have been close. Then again, based on that, the other option shouldn't have been Joe Biden. Going all the way back to the primaries, I would often hear folks say things like,
I don't care who the nominee is, as long as he can beat Drumpf.
An utterly tone-deaf perspective that can only come from a place of immense privilege or willful ignorance. Black people don't have the luxury of not caring who the other guy is. So yes, even though it ain't over and it probably won't be for a while, I do share the feeling of being able to finally exhale a bit now that Drumpf has been sacked. But when I see pictures of people legit streaking to celebrate a Biden win, it is puzzling. And I'm dead ass. That happened. Like, ma'am, put your tits away. Y'all didn't fix the world. The bar was the lowest it's been in decades, and y'all brought it back up to the floor. Setting all that aside, if we caveat that Joe Biden is no prize, we can also say that the closeness of this outcome, even and perhaps especially in such an historic voter turnout, with an historic tally on the popular vote, it was mad close. This is nowhere near being a referendum. Within this context, within this illusion of democracy known as the two-party system, given that these were effectively the only choices, Drumpf or not Drumpf, it should never have been close. Yet, over 70 million people voted for him. And they still here. According to exit polls, more than 50% of white women voted for Drumpf the first time, and this time around the percentage of white women who voted for him went up, not down. The fact is, I am not going to go door to door to try to hard sell Trump supporters on having ethics. You have to at least set foot in the store on your own accord. People talking about we need to go tell a Trump supporter that we like them, that we need to come together with the folks who supported that sack of shit with his tiny hands. No, we don't. Even the ask is offensive. Some folks just have to get left behind. When they go low, I'm not going to go into their sewer to bring them up. If you support a guy who doesn't even think that I'm a human being with a right to life and liberty and pursuit of happiness and all that, why the f should I even talk to you? Especially since so many maggots love to deny the fact that they're racist in the first place. I know, but look at their demagogue. Logic has never been on the table. Because, lest we forget, the other guy is also a septuagenarian white man, not leftist, right of center in fact, grabs him by the pussy. So we mustn't ignore what the closeness of this election signifies. More than 70 million people voted Drumpf, which means that racism, forced sterilization, concentration camps, pathological lying, state surveillance, defending and emboldening neo-Nazis and the KKK, none of these were a deal breaker. Rather, half the country opted in for a shot at more. You know, at least Biden thinks we should start training cops to shoot people in the leg. This is what y'all liberals call healing. You can miss me with the, we need to come together and reach out and hug a Trump supporter. We do not need to unify with these proud chuds. Get out of my face. White nationalists are wrong. Identify them as such. Y'all got me f***ed up if you think I'm gonna try to appeal to the morality of a maggot. Why is it someone else's responsibility to educate these people on basic human decency? Not only is it a fool's errand, it's a waste of my precious time and energy. So now what? A return to normalcy? Y'all won the battle for the soul of America? Y'all are either revising history entirely or wistful for an aesthetic of America that was never rooted in reality. Drumpf didn't single-handedly corrupt the soul of America. Drumpf and Trumpism simply revealed it. Drumpfism just gave us new vocabulary to describe something that has always been there. Racists and white supremacists never left. Drumpf just re-emboldened them after they had been underground for a couple years. So I am relieved that he's taken the L on this election, but the problems are far from solved. And I'm actually going to read something that Walela Nahanda posted on Twitter, something that my bestie actually sent me on IG because I'm not on Twitter. And Walela said, "Please stop being annoyed with people who are not interested in celebrating electoral politics. Your need to control those who critique is weird. Critique doesn't interrupt your celebrating. Feeling like it does is a problem that is not ours." All right, I gotta go. I have a Zoom meeting for work literally in about 60 seconds, so I gotta jump. But before I go, this Thursday, November 12th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, the NYU Organization of Black Women is having a natural hair expo virtually, and I will be a panelist. I will link the flyer in the D box in case you want to join via Zoom. Obviously, I won't be talking about electoral politics during a panel on natural hair, but I probably will be talking about hair politics. That is it for this one. Thanks for sticking with me all the way to the end. Before I head off to my work Zoom call, I want to remind you to stay safe, stay dangerous, and never trust anyone with a Morphe code. Bye-bye.
That's some nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.